Hey everyone, today in this video I want to talk about some recent drama about one of the guys from MrBeast's channel, Chris Tyson, and the fact that he came out trans and the backlash he's gotten online. But before I talk about that, I want to give some context about Chris and when he started coming out. The first time people started noticing that he was expressing himself differently was when he started looking more effeminate by him painting his nails, which people didn't really notice or care that much, and then he started growing his hair out, which didn't get that big of a reaction. But then he started wearing more effeminate clothing and people were wondering why he was, because in their mind they just saw he was doing it because for a bet. But apart from YouTube, there were people on Twitter who were wondering why there was such a huge difference in appearance, with a lot of people putting two different pictures side by side to show the comparison. Then Chris explained that he was taking HRT, hormone replacement theory, at which point people found out and realized that it wasn't just a joke. The problem with him coming out is that it caused a really harsh response, not just from people who kind of knew him, but people who were actually fans of him. There were a few replies making fun of him, just gonna make like a light joke, but then there were people who were actually like filled with pure disgust, who were just like completely against him, saying stuff like he's gonna like regret it. It just blows my mind because I would have never guessed him coming out would create like this much of a backlash, because I never really saw like the MrBeast fan base was this toxic. I actually thought they were going to be more open to him, because when you think about it, the MrBeast videos have a very like relaxed and positive vibe about them, with friends just having fun, so naturally the fans should also be like positive and relaxed. But in reality it was a very negative response, with people saying it was a bad choice, just like completely not supporting him. However, people from the channel like Jimmy himself were stating that they were proud and like being good friends supporting him. But then the problem was that people were saying Chris's friends are like negatively influencing him by supporting him, and that they're just doing it because they're too scared to like go against them because they could be cancelled for being like transphobic. Someone even went as far as to make fake DMs showing like discussion of them not supporting Chris, but them being more scared to go against them in fear of being cancelled. It's obviously fake, but it just shows how strongly people believe that they're just lying to appeal to people. Another reason why people are angry is because if you didn't know, Chris actually was married and had a son. However, he said that he's been separate for over a year now, which was around the same time he posted pictures with his fingernails painted and also not wearing his wedding ring. But now that he's separated and trans, people are getting angry at Chris, saying that his son's not gonna have like a father figure anymore, and that's gonna have like a really bad impact on him growing up. Chris responded by saying that he's still gonna raise his son right, even if he's not like his father figure anymore. And to be honest, I completely agree with him. He's even said himself that he wants to be like the best and happiest version of himself for his son. And honestly, even though it's gonna be difficult to raise him because he's separated, I feel like him staying with his wife would have made it worse and have like an impact on Chris's mental health. Now I want to talk about the fans, because he was actually very well liked by the fan base, because he was so like influential and prominent in the early days of the channel, and many people liked him because there was like a lot of masculine things about him. But when your fans are so invested in those qualities that could be a bit toxic, they tend to like completely do like a 180 and act out against you when you do something they don't like. They even go as far as to like scrape enough evidence to support their ideas, which they did by compiling clips of a recent MrBeast live stream where they said like people were acting awkward around Chris. But the problem is that those moments where people are pointing at and say awkward are actually very rare. If you were to do like an unscripted 1 hour long live stream, there are bound to be moments that feel a little bit off. It's not going to be like a constant flow of high energy. Not to mention the fact that the group normally has like a very relaxed behavior, so it doesn't really feel out of place. But the person who's getting the most hate right now, is getting blamed for this, is Carl. People are getting really angry at him, acting like he like deeply influenced him and basically controlled him. Although it's true that Chris and Carl are very good friends, and Chris would go as far as to always want him to be included in every video, there is proof of Chris saying that he was bi way before he met Carl. It just feels so weird people antagonizing Carl so quickly, instead of taking the time to think if he really was the sole reason for him turning trans. However, I will say that there is a chance that this negative response is just coming from like a small vocal minority, because there are people who are actually defending Chris. Whenever there's drama, there's always like a few select group of people who have a very strong and controversial opinion that doesn't really like represent the opinion of the whole fan base. But because most fans don't comment, the few comments that are made feel like a lot, so you get like a weird fake perception of opinions, when in reality there are people who are supporting him and are with Chris. Another part of people getting angry over was that a while back, one of MrBeast's most popular video was the attack helicopter video. This video was just Chris repeating the joke that he identifies as an attack helicopter and acting offended. It came out over 5 years ago and it was clearly made as a joke, poking fun at people. but I'm sure if they looked back at it, they would find the video a bit cringy. But people are acting like that video was them being transphobic, so it doesn't make sense for Chris to come out trans when he made that video, despite the fact that that video came out over like 5 years ago. In between that time, even that channel grew to be massive, so it's understandable just saying like they regret that joke and clearly don't hold those opinions still. Another thing people are talking about is how this is going to affect the channel. Since Chris is such an important figure and well liked in the group, his friends were very open to him being trans and weren't bothered that much. And they might have even known way before he said it on Twitter because they were such close friends. But in terms of what people think will happen to the channel, there seems to be like this weird idea that this is going to be like very damaging to the channel because it's forcing Jimmy to accept Chris as trans. Because if he doesn't, there's a risk he could be cancelled for being transphobic. So people are saying Chris is being inconsiderate for not thinking about how this is going to affect his friends. This makes no sense because I don't see why Jimmy would be against him being trans, and there's no proof that he's ever been transphobic. He's actually one of the last people I could imagine being against the decision. And on the other side of the argument, people are saying that if Jimmy lets Chris on, he's going to be ignoring about the fact that he's trans and it's just going to ruin the content. This again doesn't make sense because it's so dumb, and Chris isn't that loud about it and he's quite like reserved on the fact. It just feels so weird, people seeing every little thing and turning into a negative, acting out like he's trying to like cause as much damage as possible. The overall opinion is that people are saying Jimmy's in a very hard situation and this could lead to the downfall of the channel, despite the fact that it's not that big of an issue as people think it is. But the thing is, Jimmy's really good at handling drama. He's shown before that whenever there's drama about him or the channel, he tends to like stay quiet and not respond to it. That's because he knows that by responding to it, he will attract more attention to it and turn it into an actual problem. So the best approach is to like ignore it. That way it will slowly die down before people care about it and they will forget it after a short time. That's why most people on YouTube quit after being in drama, because they pursued it so hard that they made it from a tiny problem to something really big where people like were going against them. But drama can be a good thing if you don't fuck it up, because it will lead more attention to your channel. So in reality, this has just led like more traction to the MrBeast channel, despite like the negative response. I think over time this will just die down and people who are upset about it will either like keep watching the content or just stop, which I feel like wouldn't have that big of an impact. But at the moment, I think it's a good thing that Jimmy hasn't like made that many responses, apart from making like a few joke replies. If he did, it would make the situation worse and maybe even make Chris feel uncomfortable. But right now, I'm just hoping that this dies down, because Chris doesn't deserve the hate he's getting right now, with people treating him like shit. As well as the fact that people are acting like the group is against Chris when all they've really done is supporting him, and then talk about like how this is gonna lead to the downfall of the channel. But at the end of the day, I don't think this drama's gonna last long and it won't even have like that big of an impact. But I just wanted to give my opinion. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.